on what could be a death blow to third parties and independents. And look, folks, I've made it clear my criticism for third parties, and I say this out of love because we here at Hard Lens Media have shown our support and solidarity for third parties and independents. And perhaps my standards are too high. Perhaps I'm expecting too much from people. Perhaps I need to lower my standards. But the thing is, every time I've compromised with that, you always get screwed over. So why am I talking about this? Because apparently RFK Jr.'s running mate floats the idea of joining forces with Trump. Now, on the one hand, I will be playing a video segment of it. I understand her perspective of it. Joe Biden's administration has done everything it could to prevent third parties and independents from being on the ballot, from being on the debate stage. Yesterday, I had a chance to interview Dr. Jill Stein, and while I edit that video, it will be available for all of you to see on our Hardlands Media accounts very soon, sooner rather than later. But Jill Stein, Dr. Cornel West, Chase Oliver, Libertarian Party, and RFK Jr., very similar to Trump, have been facing lawsuits and roadblocks and rulings from judges and from committees across the country, both Democrat, well, mostly Democrat to be clear here, of preventing them from being on the ballot and being on the debate stage. So let me go ahead and pull up this article here because people have been asking, will RFK Jr. drop out of the race? Will he drop out of the race? Will he support Donald Trump? The only way we're going to have a real political movement is if we get real serious people. So let's talk about it. So Nicole Shanahan, the billionaire who poured millions of dollars of her own money into Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s presidential campaign before the conspiracy theorists chose her as her running mate on Tuesday, raised the possibility that Kennedy could drop his independent White House bid and throw his support behind former President Donald Trump, the Republican nominee. There's two options, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's presidency because we draw votes from Trump, Shanahan told Tom Bilyeu during the latest episode of Impact Theory podcast, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and we explain to our base why we're making this decision. So they are, and by proxy, the Democrats through too as well, trying to make the RFK Jr. or either that shared a message that they are a spoiler candidacy, which, again, you can't spoil something that's already rotten and is a eaten carcass. I will say that Trump has taken genuine, sincere interest in our policies around chronic disease. He takes it seriously for that reason. I think it behooves us to sit and see if we can actually make some real change. During his first term, Trump repeatedly proposed massive cuts in federal funding for Medicare and scientific research and other programs. Shanahan said she had visited the situation in which Kennedy does an incredible job as Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary. Responding to Shanahan's remarks, the Democratic National Committee Communications Advisor, Liz Smith, said in a statement that Nicole Shanahan isn't even pretending to be a serious VP candidate anymore. Hey, listen, Kamala was vice president, and for the past 3.5 years, she didn't do shite. She hemorrhaged staff members. She couldn't even do her job, and she had the lowest approval rating of any vice president in U.S. history, and now she's your nominee. Democrats, you're in a glass house. Stop throwing stones. Otherwise, they'll crack all around you. But anyways, continuing on. In one interview alone, she floated RFK Jr. for, again, a secretary in the Trump administration, discussing an interest in running for governor for California in 2026, admitted that Kennedy's Shanahan campaign has no path to victory, and raised the possibility of joining forces with Trump to defeat Vice President Harris. From the beginning of this race, we've said that RFK Jr. is nothing more than a spoiler for Donald Trump, and we're glad his running mate is finally admitting it. Why would you do that? Because now the Democrats are going to do that towards Jill Stein of the Green Party. They're going to do that to Chase Oliver, Libertarian Party. And yes, they're going to probably do that to Cornel West. But at this point, Cornel West's campaign is nothing more than a joke. And it is a joke. Truly, it is. When's the last time you heard Cornel West's name in any media outlet? The Washington Post reported last week that Kennedy sought a meeting with the Harris-Walz campaign, discussed the possibility of a possible job in their administration should they defeat Trump and the Republican U.S. Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio in November. According to sources, the Harris campaign has so far ignored Kennedy. While Kennedy called that reporting fake news, he said on social media Tuesday, as always, I'm willing to talk with leaders of any political party to further the goals I've served for 40 years in my career and this campaign. So let's go ahead and pull up this video here, so that all of you can see it yourselves.
I did not put in tens of millions of dollars to be a spoiler candidate. I put in tens of $1 million to win, to fix this country.
Now, again, how sad is it that the average citizen cannot really truly run for office unless you have millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Gone is the romantic mysticism of, a caring citizen concerned for their republic. There are no Cincinnatus here, folks. We live in an oligarchy.
To do the right thing. I will say that Clear Choice, this PAC, this DNC aligned PAC that was created specifically to take us out, has spent millions of dollars to take us out. They have unfortunately turned us into a spoiler. And we don't want to be a spoiler. We wanted to win. We wanted a fair shot. The DNC made that impossible for us. They have banned us, shadow banned us, kept us off stages, manipulated polls, used lawfare against us, sued us in every possible state. They've even planted insiders into our campaign to disrupt it and to create actual legal issues for us. I mean, the extent by which the sabotage they've unleashed upon us, it's mind-blowing. I mean, we're still learning new ways that they have sabotaged us. I really wanted a fair shot at this election, and I believed in the America that a little girl pledged an allegiance to.
Listen, you got to stop reading that fantasy book, okay? The only way there's going to be real change is through citizen ballot initiatives. Now, we here at Heartlands Media have made it very clear. We're not endorsing or supporting any candidate. And this leaves much to be desired for, especially for third parties, because I wanted to see them succeed. But in all reality, and I say this to the Green Party, Libertarian Party, and previous independent candidates, your time to act and really build a movement was after the 2016 election cycle. Now, for 2024, I have to say I'm very impressed with the amount of press that Haha, that rhymed. I'm very impressed with the amount of press that third parties and independents got this election cycle. Of course, a lot of it was poisonous and toxic towards their movements, but it was the most attention they've got in years. And I've been doing this now for 7 years. But there's so much more that they could have done. But the ink is already dry, so let's continue on.
And that is not where we are today. And it's not because of the Republican Party taking us out. It is exclusively because of the Democratic Party taking us out. And I am so disappointed I ever helped them. I am so disappointed that I helped Chuck Schumer in that Georgia runoff secure a majority. It's probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life. And it's really devastating. So to answer your question, we are not spoilers. That was never our motivation. We really wanted a fair shot. I think had we had a fair shot, we would have won. I still would love to see in the last 80 days of this election some miracle play out where we get a chance to debate. I don't think they're going to let us. Given this, I think we are taking a very serious look at making sure that the people that have corrupted our fair and free democracy do not end up in office in November. It's hard. I mean, it's really hard, Tom, to say these words because it's also acknowledging how bad things are.
Yeah, it's hard to hear the words. Do you guys see any path to victory at this point?
I mean, technically, if we can stay on the ballots, we've qualified for all the ballots now, which is like an enormous feat. Like you don't understand. The system was designed after Ross Perot to keep this from ever happening again, and we accomplished it. So technically, we could win. We could absolutely win still. The problem is if you censor a candidate as we've been censored, people don't get a chance to even hear us. So, there's two options that we're looking at. And one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Waltz presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and you know, we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision.
It's not an easy thing, but there's also another segment too where she shares this on Fox News. So let's go ahead and play this video. I want to share with all you people here.
It's Bobby's decision. I came into this supporting him wholeheartedly to win this election. And I have to say, there's only one party that has obstructed a fair election for us. And unfortunately, it was the Democratic Party. They've done everything they can, including creating PACs to prevent us from being able to have ballot access.
Yeah, it's interesting because you were saying that you could stay in and run the risk of Kamala Harris win, or you could walk and you could join forces with Donald Trump. When you say join forces, Nicole, what do you mean specifically?
Well, this idea of a unity party, an idea of us coming around these principles of fighting for liberty in this country.
The sweet words of liberty. What are those when journalists are being detained and arrested? When people can be deplatformed, demonetized, censored, and shadow banned? What does it mean, the word liberty, when the fact that people are being exposed to dangerous chemicals and other poisons? Or is it that natural disasters make them homeless? Someone should send that memo, the word liberty, and what it means to the people of, I don't know, East Palestine, Ohio, Flint, Michigan, Lahaina, Hawaii, and everywhere else across this beautiful country of ours in red and blue states. The word liberty. What does it truly mean when millionaires and billionaires can buy our elections and buy our politicians while the rest of us starve? After all, I've always said that donors will supersede the voters.
Fighting for our children's health. We have the worst chronic health crisis in the world right now. Over 50% of children are diagnosed with some chronic disease. This is unconscionable. Yeah. And we are willing to work with anyone who is sincere in their endeavor to fix and address this issue.
Do you believe the Trump campaign and Trump himself is sincere? Do you see a home? You talk about this as being Bobby's decision. Do you see a home for RFK Jr. in the Trump administration, Health and Human Services, something to that extent?
I would fully support it. I would fully support a strong partnership dedicated to this issue. A lot of people comment that in his first term, he didn't accomplish many of the things that mothers really were hoping he would do. Made some big mistakes around the pandemic. However, I think that he is sincere.
Yeah,
I do.
Well, let's talk about sincerity here real quick, because we have to pull this up here. And that is what happened in Pennsylvania, the great state of Pennsylvania. After all, Pennsylvania, like any other state, has RFK Jr. on its ballot. However, I just want to be very clear before I pull up this video here, and probably why RFK Jr. could potentially drop out and endorse Donald Trump. RFK Jr. was prevented from being able to testify at his court hearing deciding if he's eligible to be on the Pennsylvania ballot. Listen, now I have my disagreements with RFK Jr. I'm not in support of anyone dropping out supporting a two-party system, because then it tells me that you're not a serious person and you wasted people's time. But here we are, because this is a double-edged sword. There's many ways of looking at this segment of potentially RFK Jr. dropping out and supporting Donald Trump. The fact that the entire political system is preventing third parties and independents from actually having a fair chance, the ability to really make an impact. And if it can truly be argued that Ross Perot and by some extent Ralph Nader were the last true independents to really run against a two-party system, I don't know what it's going to look like in regards to the future of third parties. But dare I say it now, the ball's in our court for citizen ballot initiatives.
And the judge did not give him time to come to court to testify. He was late through no fault of his own. We don't control airlines. And when the airline cancels a flight into Harrisburg, as you know, flights into Harrisburg are far and few between, unlike Philadelphia, where this hearing was originally to be scheduled. Because of the transfer to Harrisburg, he had very few flight options. His flight was canceled, and for that reason and that reason alone, the judge decided he can't testify. So that's sort of the end of it. I've never been in a situation where a canceled flight has resulted in a judge preventing a presidential, any witness from testifying, given that we have the entire day set aside. Very easily could have had an adjournment to allow Mr. Kennedy to get here, and we could have presented our case in full. And we were not allowed to do that.
I heard Mr. Kennedy's engagement last night in Philadelphia had been canceled. Is there a reason why you couldn't?
I can't speak to that. I don't know. And the judge did not give him time to come.
Now, I do want to pause here and actually get a statement from Donald Trump in regards to being asked this question. How would he feel about RFK Jr.'s endorsement and support or potential being part of his administration?
Can I ask you about RFK? Because just moments ago, his running mate said that they were considering endorsing you. Have you considered him for a role in the administration, and what role would that be?
Well, we haven't, but I would love that endorsement because I've always liked him.
Would you also consider putting him in the administration?
You're asking me a very unusual question. I haven't been asked that question yet. I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. I probably would if something like that would happen.
Now, my thoughts. Heartland's Media has been dedicated supporter for third parties and independents. We've interviewed libertarians, Greens, socialists, non-affiliate. And the thing is, the American people do deserve another choice. And to be clear here, running at the state level or federal level as a third-party candidate, you are facing off against a mountain of legal issues and other things as well. You face off against threats from both Democratic and Republican Party officials because the DNC and RNC, while they are rivals, they don't need anyone else to be part of their, well, system. And there is always the danger if we had like a multi-party system, then instead of a two-headed monster, we have a multi-headed monster, a hydra. We need to look at another alternative. And I think this election cycle says it best. And I will actually be posting this link in the comments section. It's from Roger Meadows about the need to abolish political parties, because we got to end this, I mean, at least on a high note. Will RFK Jr. drop out? Well, seeing that he's got a lot of legal issues, seeing that he's got a lot of political issues dealing with the Democratic Party, and not to mention for the fact that they are doing everything they can to prevent him from being on the ballot, there's a very likely chance that RFK Jr. will drop out and possibly support Donald Trump. Now, why would he support Donald Trump? Does that make RFK Jr. a bad person? No. I mean, I don't care who people vote for. I don't think I'm going to be voting for any presidential candidate. I don't think I'm going to be supporting any political party. I think this might be my last election, and the only time I'm going to be voting is if, I don't know, there's a ballot initiative that requires my support. I'm not impressed with how third parties have literally shit the bed. I'm not impressed with how third parties and independents have dragged people along. If you're going to get serious, then get serious. Stop wasting my time. Stop wasting my audience's time. Now, there are people who are running for local offices who are doing some good things, and I've ran into good, die-hearted third-party candidates. In fact, I'm going to be having another one on the show. She's running for the Green Party, and we're seeing people put in the effort and the need to fight for a better future. And I will be more than happy to give a platform to third parties and independents. But to the political leadership, for those people who are making a name for themselves, who are going forward, I understand that there are legal issues and other stuff that has to happen, but at least reach out to your party support, reach out to your base, reach out to independent media. Tell us what needs to be done, because there needs to be open and clear communication of how we can actually really build a strong political movement. But all in all, if RFK Jr. drops out and supports Donald Trump, I couldn't blame him, because there's only one presidential administration that has used the various committees and state boards and judicial systems, as well as the FBI, to silence and suppress his opponents, and that is Joe Biden. This Democratic administration has gone after people like RFK Jr., Dr. Jill Stein, Cornel West, Chase Oliver, and Donald Trump. How many times we covered on the show about how the Biden-Harris administration is silencing and suppressing with the Democratic Party the other options, the other opponents. So I want to pull up this segment here, or this little link right here, brought to you by Roger Meadows. Benefits of abolishing political parties. And this is a document, and I will be sharing it with all of you when I clip this segment. Parties help maintain the status quo by partitioning to move people into separate teams. So the answer is not more parties, but independence from parties. And I say we check this entire segment out. Now, there's a lot to read here, but this is from good friend of the show, Roger Meadows, who's been a beacon of truth. So if I'm going to end this segment, I'll end it on a positive note. Citizen ballot initiatives and abolish all political parties. If you live in a citizen ballot initiative state, fight to maintain your state to be a citizen ballot initiative state. And if you don't live in a citizen ballot initiative state, fight to make it a ballot initiative state. We don't need political parties and we don't need no more heroes. It's time for us, the people, to step up, as we should. If RFK Jr. drops out, supports Donald Trump, okay, maybe it gives a boost to Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, no matter who sits in the White House, you, the people, don't have a seat at the table. And that's why we need to break away from the two-party system, because they don't like us, they don't think about us, and they sure as hell don't respect us.